I found out my sister was getting married from a public Facebook post, and I found out her husband was a monster when a video of him slapping her across the face in front of her own wedding cake went viral on TikTok. It's a strange, gut-wrenching feeling to watch your only sibling get humiliated in front of millions of people while you're sitting on your couch, uninvited and ignored, 300 miles away. I've spent the last 48 hours wondering if I should have fought harder to be there, or if my absence was the final spark that set her life on fire. Before I get into the absolute chaos of what happened at that reception, and how I ended up being the one to bail her out of a situation our parents ignored, I have to ask you guys something honestly. If your family spent years treating you like the black sheep just for being successful, would you still show up to save them when everything inevitably came crashing down, or would you let them sit in the mess they made? To understand why I wasn't at the wedding, you have to understand the dynamic between my sister, Mia, and me. Growing up, I was the responsible one, which is really just code for the kid who didn't cause enough trouble to get any attention. Mia was the golden child, the one who needed constant emotional support and financial help from our parents, Susan and David. I worked my way through college, landed a high-paying job in tech, and moved to the city to start my life. Meanwhile, Mia stayed in our hometown, bouncing from one passion project to another, all funded by my parents' retirement savings. The resentment started when I refused to invest $10,000 into her failed candle-making business 3 years ago. My parents called me selfish and cold, saying I had more money than I knew what to do with, and that family should always come first. That was the beginning of the end. We drifted, and by the time Mia met Marcus, I was barely getting a text back on Christmas. Marcus was everything my parents wanted for Mia. He was charismatic, wealthy, and came from a good family in the local social scene. From the photos I saw online, he looked like a prince, but there was always something off about his eyes in the pictures where he wasn't posing. Last year, I heard through a mutual friend that they were engaged. I waited for a call, a text, or even a formal invitation in the mail, but it never came. When I finally called my mother to ask why I hadn't heard anything, she told me flat out that Mia didn't want any negativity at her wedding. Apparently, my presence was a reminder of her failures because I had judged her for her career choices. I was banned from the biggest day of her life. I spent months feeling a mix of hurt and relief, but I never could have predicted that the wedding would turn into a national scandal. The wedding was this past Saturday. I spent the day trying to stay off social media, but curiosity is a poison. By 11:00 p.m., my feed was blowing up, not with beautiful photos of the ceremony, but with a grainy 15-second clip that had already been shared 50,000 times. In the video, Mia and Marcus are standing at the cake table. She says something you can't hear what, and laughs, perhaps a bit too loudly. Marcus doesn't laugh. He looks at her with a level of pure, unadulterated rage that chilled me to my core. Then, without a second of hesitation, he swings his hand and slaps her so hard her head snaps back. The room goes silent. The person filming gasps and drops the phone, and the video cuts out. My heart didn't just drop. It felt like it stopped beating. I called my parents immediately, but both of their phones went straight to voicemail. I called Mia, nothing. I sat in my dark living room, watching that loop over and over, seeing my sister crumble in her white dress. So, that's where things stood at midnight on Saturday. My sister had just been publicly assaulted by her new husband. My parents were nowhere to be found, and I was the person they had spent 3 years cutting out of their lives. I had a choice to make. I could stay in my apartment, tell myself it wasn't my problem, and let them handle the fallout of the perfect man they chose over me. Or I could get in my car and drive 3 hours into the middle of a disaster I wasn't invited to. Before I tell you what I did and the absolute explosion that happened when I walked into that hotel suite, I want you to pause. Seriously, go to the comments right now. If your family had treated you like an outsider and then called you crying, or worse, ignored you while they were suffering, would you go? Or would you say, "I told you so," from a distance? I didn't even pack a bag. I just grabbed my keys and drove. I arrived at the hotel where the reception was held at 3:00 a.m. The lobby was eerie, filled with a few lingering wedding guests who looked like they had seen a ghost. I found out from a bridesmaid who was crying near the elevators that Marcus had been escorted out by hotel security, but not arrested because my parents didn't want a scene. They had taken me up to the bridal suite to calm her down. When I burst into that room, I didn't see a happy bride. I saw Mia sitting on the edge of the bed, her makeup smeared, a massive purple bruise already forming on her cheek. My mother was sitting next to her, whispering that they could fix this, and that Marcus was just stressed from the planning. I lost it. I screamed at my mother, asking her how she could possibly defend a man who did that in front of 200 people. My father tried to usher me out, saying I wasn't supposed to be there, but I pushed past him. I looked at Mia and told her that if she stayed, this would be the rest of her life. I told her I had a car downstairs and a guest room in the city where Marcus would never find her. For the first time in years, the golden child looked at me and didn't see a rival. She saw a lifeline. She stood up, still in her torn wedding dress, and walked toward me. My parents were hysterical, claiming that leaving would ruin the family's reputation, and that the marriage could be annulled quietly later if we just handled it internally. They were more worried about the viral video than the skin breaking on their daughter's face. I walked me out of that hotel while Marcus's groomsmen tried to block our path. I told them if they touched us, I'd ensure the police saw the full-length footage I knew one of them was hiding. We drove back to my place in silence. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Within 24 hours, the video had 10 million views. Marcus lost his job at his father's firm, and his family tried to sue Mia for defamation, which is hilarious considering he's the one who hit her on camera. My parents are still barely speaking to me, accusing me of kidnapping Mia and forcing her to end her marriage. They are so deep in their own denial that they've become the villains of their own story. But Mia is safe. She's currently sleeping in my guest room, and we've spent the last few days talking more than we have in a decade. She apologized for everything: the candles, the exclusion, the years of silence. Looking back, I realized that being the black sheep didn't mean I was the problem. It meant I was the only one with enough perspective to see the walls closing in. My parents are still worried about what the neighbors think, but I'm worried about the fact that my sister almost tied herself to a monster for life. It's a long road to recovery for her, and the legal battle to wipe that marriage off the records is going to be a nightmare. But for the first time, we're doing it as a team. This whole experience taught me that family isn't about who you're invited to celebrate with. It's about who shows up when the music stops and the lights go out. If you've ever been the outcast in your family, just know that your distance might be the very thing that allows you to save them one day. Was I wrong for crashing the wedding aftermath and taking her away against my parents' wishes? They still claim I overstepped and made the scandal worse by involving myself. I think I did what any decent person would do. Like this video if you think I made the right call by getting her out of there, and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family drama and standing your ground. Let me know in the comments how would you deal with parents who prioritize their reputation over their child's safety. I'll be reading your responses, and I'll see you all in the next story.